Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larosiliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hi, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larosiliere. Today's guest is Laura Basili from Brazilian Lumber. How you doing, Laura, also known as the Deck Diva?
Hi, I'm doing great.
I'm
How are
well,
you?
thanks. Hey, how did you tell us the origin story? How'd you get the name the Deck Diva?
So, when I first started in the industry and I was trying to learn a little bit more about the wood, I thought about doing some deck dares. And I did these with a coworker who was male, and so I nicknamed him the Deck Dude. And I needed a name for myself, and there weren't that many D names for females. So I said, okay, Deck Diva, and went from there.
How many years have you tell us the origin story? How did you get into the industry?
So I was working with a woman who installed crown moldings and staircases and interiors. And we went to a house and we miscalculated completely how much putting in interior stairs on a spiral staircase was going to cost. And so we're like, well, if the wood for it's that expensive, why don't we import the wood ourselves? That way, we can cut down on costs. So we imported our first container of wood in order to sort of balance out the cost of that one project. And that first month, we didn't sell a single piece of wood, and we were really worried. But then, little by little, people got to know us, know that we were importing hardwoods and quality hardwoods, and we had great prices. And so, they started buying them from us, and now we have 2 locations, one in Miami, one in Los Angeles.
That's awesome. And who do you end up selling your decks to? Is it more of a distributor or is it more direct to consumer?
So it depends on the product because we are, we are distributors for certain brands because not all of the brands are ours. And then there's certain products that we import directly, and those, we sell retail as well as, it depends on quantities kind of, but we sell a lot of different products, a lot of different brands.
That's awesome.
And every year we expand. So
Adding,
it's not just
adding more
tropical
and
hardwoods
more,
anymore.
like adding more and more
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
How do you stay
Products
ahead?
or hardware.
Yeah.
So trade shows is a great way. You go to trade shows, you see what's new on the market, you see what new hardware, gadgets, installation methods, products people have, and you talk to a lot of architects and designers and contractors and see, for example, I had a contractor who was killing his back. Every time he installed a screw, he had to get down, bend over, use a screwdriver. And that's when I said, oh, there's a great product that, for example, Camo sells where you can install, standing up, because it's basically like it elongates your screwdriver. So I thought, okay, I think that's going to become a really popular tool because people don't want to bend down in the sun all day when they're installing decks.
Yeah.
So things like that. You kind of listen to people, get to know your customer.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the decking industry, in the past couple of years? Like where do you think the market is going?
So as far as hardwood decks, I've noticed that a lot of people are asking for alternates to eBay.
Mm.
So if you're not familiar with the hardwood decking world, their tropical hardwoods come from South America and other parts of the world as well, but mostly here in the United States, we get ours from South America. And these tropical hardwoods are super resistant. That's why they're used for outdoors without any kind of chemical treatment. The number
Yeah.
one, the hardest wood called ironwood is ipe. And that's what most people have always heard of and always used. The trend I'm seeing is that people are moving away from ipe and getting into the other tropical hardwoods, like species like kumaru or hatoba. They just, some architect starts using it and puts out photos of it and it gets published in a magazine, and then everybody wants to start using that type of hardwood. So that's in the hardwoods. As far as composite decking, what I see is people are looking for more and more realistic looking materials. And the companies, the big brand companies, they're getting new products that are ever more realistic looking.
Mm.
So that's great. And then one big decking trend that I'm seeing is the substructure. So your frame. Normally people build up these decks out of very, very permanent materials, but underneath they use less expensive materials for their frame, which doesn't make sense because the top part's going to stay great, but then if the inside is rotting, you're going to have to replace the top part. So I'm seeing a lot of companies come out with aluminum or steel frame
Yeah.
systems, so that can last a lot longer. So that's really cool.
What tell us about the business. So like you have your own that you import and then you distribute others. Do you have a distributor an installer network? Is that how you sort of get those done, or like how does the deck actually get done and installed in the
So I
clients?
don't build any decks. Full disclaimer: I don't build any decks. I only sell decking materials, and not just decking materials, right? It's materials for siding and cladding, for ceiling soffits. And
Mm.
now I also have a lot of materials for interiors as well. Again, for ceilings and sidings and walls and wall panels and wall cladding, slat wall panels, however you want to call them. They have 100 different names for them, but that's, products that you can use inside or outside, but I don't actually install any of them. So my customers are always the people who are either the homeowner who wants to purchase their own materials or the contractor who is, going to use the materials.
How those early years when you first started, how did you get the word out? How did you build up a clientele and a customer base?
Craigslist.
Craigslist, yeah.
Do you remember Craigslist? Do people still use Craigslist? I don't
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Craigslist was my biggest source of leads at the time. You just would put up an ad on Craigslist and, people would start calling.
I remember that Craigslist was like if you got good, you can like rename the ad and then you can have multiple ads running at once and then you had to keep a schedule. Remember you had to keep
I
a
was
schedule?
queen.
Like you had to have a schedule of when you knew the ad was going to come out and then you would repost it, right? Like
Yes, yes, yes. And you go back to old apps and you change the wording, kind of do like A/B testing with certain words, and then like they'd change the rules, and all of a sudden you couldn't put a phone number in the header
yeah.
anymore. So you just learn the tricks and you keep up with the trends, the housing trends, as well as the marketing trends.
Wow. So Craigslist, and then what happened after you've evolved after Craigslist? Was it just more like word of mouth or what other tactics
So
were
it's
you?
a lot of word of mouth, a lot of word of mouth. Um, and then obviously once we had a little bit more of a budget, pay per click and other sort of paid advertising as well. Um, but I would say a lot of our business came from word of mouth, especially in the beginning. Still, it still does,
Mhm.
but at the beginning it was Craigslist and word of mouth.
That's great. How much how do you spend your time now in terms of running your business and how big is your team?
We have 25 people in the Miami location, and I think it's like 8 or 10 people in the California location.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of the marketing, and I'm the content creator. So I spend most of my time with my marketing team, and I have 5 people on my marketing team. So we have a good workflow there. Obviously, we always would love to have more people.
Yeah, yeah,
Anybody who's looking for a job in marketing, come apply. But but basically, I spend most of my time looking over all of the marketing initiatives, all the campaigns, and creating a lot of the content and reaching out and creating sort of like the public relations side of things.
yeah.
And I do a lot of product education. That's the part that I like doing the most.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's been the biggest challenge in the past year with the business?
Oh man, I think um, as your business grows and you always have processes in place, but getting people to really understand those processes, follow them, I mean, silly things sometimes like putting tags into the CRM and just getting everyone on board with certain policies or introducing a new product and really getting the sales team to understand that product and then be able to transfer that knowledge to the client so that that product moves. That's always a challenge, I think.
Yeah. How do you stay ahead as a business leader, personally, professionally?
Mm, I don't think of it that way. I never think about how I'm staying ahead. I don't really. I mean, I shouldn't, but I'm kind of like just focused on what I'm doing and not looking so much at, what
Yeah,
other companies are doing with similar products. So I never think of it as staying ahead. I always think of it as just doing like the best job possible,
mm,
giving the best service, the best prices, the best products. And that's it. It's
yeah,
like a daily thing. It's not really like a plan ahead kind of thing. I mean, obviously we plan ahead and we do
yeah,
forecasting and campaigns and things, but I don't think of it as that. I think of it more as doing what you're doing today really well.
yeah, yeah. Did you how did you come up with the idea to come with have a second location? Like what I know you started in Miami, and then how did you come up or like rationalize having a second location?
The amount of sales that we're going, the amount of phone calls that we're getting out in California, and the distance between California and Miami just sort of made it logical to have a point on both
That's
coasts.
great. That's awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
What's exciting you about your business these days?
Everything. I really like what I do. I really do. I love meeting customers. I love meeting other professionals in the business. I love doing the educational videos. I love making the content, thinking of new ways to present the information. I really love the people that I work with. I think we have an amazing team. It feels more like a family um, than work colleagues. We do something every Friday, every the last Friday of every month. We have like a cultural lunch, so it'll vary. The food will vary, and then we'll put up pictures about that culture and things. And like I don't know, I feel like we're just like celebrating all the time, whether it's a birthday or a milestone or a cultural lunch, like whatever it is. I feel like we're always sort of putting great energy out there. And so I really like it. That's really exciting to me.
And I can see in your content too that you really that the energy comes off, and it must build a lot of trust with people when they see you in the content. Is that right?
I mean, I would think so. I don't know. I don't worry too much about that. I think, as I said, it's like being present, living the moment, doing the best you can
Hmm.
while you're doing it. when you're focusing on that, you can't really focus too much else on how people are perceiving it, or if they're under. Well, obviously, I want them to understand it, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't focus so much on how it's going to be received. I focus more on how good the quality content is.
Yeah. 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 That's it. That's an interesting perspective. And obviously it's working for you to be able to just like focus on what's in front of you, get your content out, show value, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, no, and I just kind of think like, okay, it's having conversations with people, seeing like what they're not understanding about a product, what they are understanding, and based on that, going back and doing, a lot of trial and error videos, educational videos, just fun and funny videos. Um, in my office, I'm pretty much the only one who ever wants to go on camera. Nobody else
Yeah.
goes on camera. So if you watch my TikTok, a lot of my like humor content is based on like, hey, I'm here asking everyone to do a TikTok, and everyone's like, no, I don't want to do it. So
Yeah.
so it's just having fun. I think it's having fun. I think, when your day to day life can get hard, especially in this industry that's so customer service based, timeline based, so a lot of our customers are having a lot of stress on the job. Why not give them a little humor when they come to social media, which for a lot of people is taking a break, right? Taking
For
a little
sure.
break from reality or while you're sitting in traffic.
For sure. Have you I mean, what role does the economy play in your business? And like, and I know it's all personal, but like, different business owners have different takes on like, oh, the economy and this and this. Like, what? I'm just curious. Like, how does that play into your mindset strategy?
Well, a lot of the products that we sell are for higher end homes,
Hmm.
right? So tropical hardwood decks, a lot of the lines of composite decking, have a higher price point than, say, something you could go out and get at your local, hardware store,
Yeah.
right? So usually the people who have, or the people who are using luxury products aren't as affected by the economy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so, so for example, COVID was great for us. We didn't think it was going to be, but COVID was great because, everybody was trying to remodel their home and especially the outdoors because they wanted to spend more time
Hmm.
outdoors. So that had a great impact for us. And I think it's a trend that's continued, and people have seen the value in, not just decorating the inside of a house, but also the outside, or creating amazing outdoor spaces for commercial, not just residential spaces, but commercial spaces as well. And one of the great things is that with natural
Yeah.
wood, and I have trop gardens, I have thermally modified woods, it's one of those materials that's been used always, but can always change. And depending on how you install it or how you mill it, will give a whole different feeling. It could, give a very modern feeling or a very rustic feeling to a building. So it's one of those elements that's just used a lot. It's kind of like a staple,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that, although I have to be clear, we are in an industry that's a want business, not a need business,
Mm.
right? So when you're building a house,
Yeah. You need it.
you always need a front door. You're always going to need windows. Now, whether you get hurricane impact windows that open automatically when the breeze is coming and they shade you from the sun, how high end or how low end you go, you're going to need windows for a house.
Yeah.
You don't need a
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need a
It's a
soffit,
lot.
right? You can just put a plaster up there. So, you have to really, you really are in an industry where people are choosing to spend their money with your products, and your products are higher end. So, the economy does affect everyone, obviously, in our business as well. But we're fortunate enough to be in an industry where people can afford the products. But if the economy were to really, 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 really change, a want versus a need, the want's going to be cut out first, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But when you go higher end, that it doesn't really matter to them. right? Like if they want it, they want it, and they have the
They
resources.
probably already have all their needs met. So
Yeah,
whatever they have, they can use for their want.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, cool. Tell us what's the next year looking like for your business? Any big plans?
Well, yeah, we're doing a lot of traveling. We're going to, we go on site to factories, to different locations to really see the product, understand the product, see how it's made, do a lot of, checking, getting to know other companies that we're going to carry. So for us, this year has been really about bringing in new products, understanding those products, getting consumers to understand the products, and having a lot of online presence,
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What like when you think about your own personal professional development as a leader, like how do you approach that? Like, is it coaches or books or conferences? Like how do you approach your own development as an entrepreneur?
Hmm. I don't really focus on that. I focus more on developing myself as an individual.
Mm,
So it's not so much about how do I become a better business person, it's more how do I become a better person,
interesting.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if that means doing more meditation or doing cold plunges so that your nervous system and your immune system really gets used to taking stress in a better way. I think that's where I focus instead of focusing on how can I be a better business person. Because I think once you're a good person, then the business side will follow. Because you could be a great business person, but be a horrible person
Yeah.
versus, and that's not going to work out for you. So I think the foundation is always having a good foundation in
Yeah.
oneself, the same way I think it's the foundation of having a good product and good service versus how do I market it or what's the trend or how do I, I just believe in the basics. I guess I'm basic. My name might be Deck Diva, but
That's probably
although I'll tell you what I do pay, for the LinkedIn learning, and I do encourage my team to take a LinkedIn class every month or a SEMrush class every month, and then we'll present different people take different courses, and at the end of the month they'll present whatever they found useful, and that way it's like you're taking like a couple different classes instead of taking just your own. But we do that. Obviously, we do continuing education, we support continuing education, and we support people being entrepreneurs within our company. That's one of
yeah.
the things that I think has retained a lot of our employees, is that we've always encouraged them, hey, you have a great idea, we're here to support it. Go ahead, develop it, we'll support it, we'll put financial backing behind it, and help you grow with us. We want all of our employees to grow just as much as we want our company to grow.
Um, the very first time meditation has been mentioned on this podcast, and I have,
Really?
I'm here for it. Thank you because I meditate as well, and
Oh, I definitely, I mean, it's one of those things, like when I see an employee who's having a hard time, I'm like, okay, active break, hands in the air, like let's breathe, let's do some box breathing, I want you to visualize this, that, and the other thing, even if it's just 5 minutes, it like gets people out of their rut, you know, um, and
yeah,
it's like active breaks kind of, and that
for
way,
sure.
I mean, can you remember that one problem from 3 years ago? No,
Yeah,
right?
not
But at
really.
the time, it
Yeah,
felt like, oh my God, the client's not answering, the driver's there, and this and that, and the product's not, and the credit card isn't going through. And then it's like you can get really overwhelmed with things that aren't
super.
actually that important.
That doesn't even mean
So
anything.
taking a
Absolutely.
step back and just like grounding yourself, breathing a little, thinking of the bigger picture can help you like find that
Yeah.
calm that allows you to move forward, whether it's canceling the order or calling a different person, like whatever it is, you're going to think more logically and you're going to do a better job by just being a little more grounded.
Yeah. I I really appreciate that perspective, because a lot of times when I talk to people, and even as a business owner, I always, like, I'll tell a client, or if I can kind of tell when they're being stuck, or they're stuck and they're in their head, or they're projecting future problems for things that don't have to deal with right now. They're not being present with where they're at, right? Um
Right. Oh, all the time.
and
All the
it's
time.
a very, it's a great, like, I love what you just said, like, focus on yourself as a person. um and sometimes you can manufacture those circumstances, like the cold plunges, like lifting heavy weights, like meditation, because it does give you this perspective of noticing what's happening, and then, like it gives you perspective, so that you can almost have empathy. It's ultimately, it's about empathy for yourself, and if you're dealing with other people, have empathy for other people, so that you can approach situations on a human level, as opposed to reacting from, like, emotion, or outside outside sort of factors. Is that right? Do you agree with that?
Triggers.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
I do. I do.
Where did that come from? I'm just curious. Like, the person, like, how did you grow up, and how did you sort of gain this perspective? Like, I don't know, did you have a big family, or, like, where did it come from?
No, I don't think I even knew what meditation was until maybe a couple of years ago.
Mm,
You know, I don't, I heard of cold plunging when it became popular,
yeah,
to be honest. It's just something that when you have a lot on your
yeah,
plate, you need to find ways to really take time to yourself. And like for example, one thing that you know how they say like the best ideas come in the
yeah, yeah,
shower?
for sure. Yeah,
I really believe in that. And as a content creator, um, as sort of a creative, I know that I need those spaces where I'm not doing anything because that's when the good ideas
mm-hmm,
come. That's like when the spontaneous things happen. So I know that about myself and I've seen that in other people, like when you're always thinking about what happened or what's going to happen,
yeah,
then what you're doing right now isn't going to happen.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? Like if I'm constantly worried about that email that I'm supposed to send, then I'm not sending the email,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I mean, just as a very simplistic example. But I'm just a big
for sure.
believer in things like a client might leave because of price, but will come back for service. But if you don't give good service, it doesn't matter what price you give them, they won't come back. So having a great team that has, the foundation of being a good person is the most important thing, and that you give through example.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes tons of sense. And it's a, I think, a perspective that I really appreciate onto this podcast. So thank you for sharing that, because we don't have enough of
You don't
that.
hear that a
So
lot from business owners?
no, 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 no. It wasn't that long ago. I had somebody on the podcast. He was a builder, and I was like, hey, so how do you, like, how do you personally, professionally develop yourself? And he was like, well, I did, lots of uh, looking back and seeing what in my past did this and that. And I was like, dude, are you talking about therapy? Right. And then he was like, yeah. And so we went down this conversation about, therapy. And it was just more, I mean, for me, it's one thing to talk about business, but I ultimately want to talk to people and get to know people and show a different side of like what it takes to be a woodpreneur, right? It's like these are all real things that as you grow a business that that I truly believe that bonds us to,
And
other
you're going to get
people.
hit with
And
all of it. I mean, you're going to get hit with
yeah, you're
nuances.
gonna,
You're going to get hit with fines. You're going to get hit with, permit permitting issues. Like you're going to get hit with, you know, HR problems. You're going to always get hit with
Yeah.
everything because everything is your responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately it's your responsibility. So I think that developing that sort of centeredness is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so tell, this is a part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that you guys are struggling with, or any marketing advice that you need an extra set of eyes and ears to think of, that you can think of?
So one of the hard things for me is that, you know, marketing is marketing, and that's going to be the same whether you're selling a lipstick, you know, or lumber.
Mm-hmm.
But training your marketing team
Yeah.
to a niche, you know, like let's say you were selling, I don't know, chemicals or pharmaceutical products or things where you really have to have a lot of knowledge about the product in order to market it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing that kind of training, like how do you get people up to speed where the learning curve isn't so, you know, steep, and where losing a person on your team really, you know, hits you with like a big blow.
So it's so interesting that you say that, because I just hired a new head of social for my agency, and
Mm-hmm.
she's really good at data, and she's really good at just like content creation and understanding, algorithms and that sort of stuff, right? So I saw that as a skill, and I was like, I want that, but she's not she doesn't know this industry. So I'll tell you what I'm doing, and this is something that you can absolutely do, is that I would build out an outline of the industry and almost create an online course and have a scheduled weekly call with this person, or every other day, where you literally follow, because everything's in your head. Everything's completely in your head. You just need to get it out in a way so that they can understand. And so one of the things that I'm planning to do, and I literally just started this yesterday, was I recorded the conversation over Zoom, right? So I recorded the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm following a script. And at the end of the script, and I'm using like words, and I'm using diagrams in order so like I'm using this software called Lucid Chart. So like Lucid Chart to do like whiteboard type diagrams, like flow charts, and then I'm using
Mm-hmm.
words, and then I use Chat GPT to come up with the outline. Um, and I follow that, and so I'll talk to it, record it, and then I will get that transcribed as well. And then I'm basically building an online training platform for folks that get onboarded. So I told her the vision, and I told her where I'd like her position to be. And then we're building an online everything that she needs in order to be prepared and onboarded. And so I'm just kind of staying on her so that she follows through, but then documenting it for future people.
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
doing that.
And then I don't know, do you have an do you have a project management system?
We have a CRM because we
Okay. Um
do project manage
so
because we just sell
that you
products.
that you sell products, so like, does it have an area, so you could probably, well, an easy way for you to do is like create a Google Drive and then record the conversations and then dump them there. So like put the videos in there, create the outline, and then you can link them to the videos in the Google Doc,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then if there are word summaries, then you can link them to there, so that you give people different
Wow.
options for consuming the information.
That's a really good idea, Steve. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just send
Yeah.
them to you
I mean,
too.
What's that?
I just send everyone to YouTube.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be great too to have just say like, all right, this is the Brazilian lumber, this is the Deck Diva guide to like, you know, the decking industry, right?
Yeah,
And then like
absolutely.
I actually think that would be a cool
Well, that's
product,
what a lot of
right?
our actually that's what a lot of our YouTube content is like this is what this product is, this is how you use it, this is an installation, how to like we do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I
Absolutely.
mean if you can use that as an internal driver to get people onboarded really fast and like consume this, report back, that would be, I mean, yeah, that would be that'd be, I think that would be a very cool way. Like I said, you can, if people have the skills and the desire, all they need to know is to apply their skills and desire to your industry, and you'd be golden. So
Awesome.
cool. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very.
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Tell everybody your website and your Instagram
So it's
and how they can follow you.
brazilianlumber.com. It's
Mhm.
brazilianlumber.com. And then we have our Instagram is Brazilian_lumber. And then on
Yep.
TikTok, you can find us as well. You can find me as Deck Diva on Instagram, Real Deck Diva on Instagram, Deck Diva on TikTok. And then we have the Brazilian Lumber YouTube channel and LinkedIn. So we're pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Laura, for your time and for sharing your story. And congratulations on your success and
Thank
your
you.
growth.
Thank you so much.
It's really inspiring to see, and I really love your perspective and everything that you're doing with your business. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.